Okay, so today I have another keyboard case. But in this case, it's a very different keyboard case, and it's for a very different device. This is the Typecase Flexbook Touch. It is a keyboard case for the iPad Pro. In this case, it's the 12.9 inch iPad Pro. And as you can see, the one I have is blue. It's got relatively inoffensive branding here on the front with the type for Typecase. There's a cutout here you can see for the camera. There is a pen loop. More on that later. There is a very small metal hinge that everything spins on. There are rubber feet on the bottom. Pretty grippy. There are cutouts for all of the ports for the USB-C port and the speakers. There's even a cutout for the SIM card tray. I do have a cellular iPad, but you're not going to get that out of that hole. I can tell you right now that's going to be a problem. Just take the case off. But you have the cutout for the power button, and then you have clicky buttons for the volume. And of course you have this cradle on the top for the Apple Pencil, which is very handy. Now, as soon as you open it, it connects pretty quickly. You can usually tell because the backlight's on. It's sometimes hard to see the backlight in daytime. But if I hit this enter button, and so here I am, I've got a web page open. So you can see that you get the full benefit of the screen. You have a bezel on the bottom for where the hinge is, pretty much just that amount. And there's really nothing on top except the cradle for the Apple Pencil. The keyboard is backlit. I've got it in my favorite color, purple, as you can see here. There is a reasonably sized trackpad here. It is functional. The pen loop, when you have it here in laptop mode, for some reason it's on the left side. I think that's very curious, but as a lefty, I'm down with it. So you can probably see as I'm moving it around, it's a little wobbly. If you're tapping on the screen, you will get movement in this mode. Pretty much whatever angle you have it at, and of course now I'm opening websites I didn't mean to open. So the claim to fame for this is the postures, right? So this is laptop mode. But you can spin on this tiny little axis and you can do different postures or different modes. They call this one share mode. I mean, honestly, to me, this is stand mode, but just not completely 90 degrees. When you do turn it completely this way, now you can do presentations, or you can just watch video. Maybe you don't want the keyboard in your way. You just want to be able to see the screen. Keep in mind, you've got the full keyboard behind you, so it's going to take up more space this way. But if you're sharing a screen with someone else for a presentation or a very special conversation, this is an option. From here, you can lay it down flat. And now you've got tablet mode, which is very useful because now you can use your iPad as a tablet and you don't have to take it out of the case. The one annoying thing I will say about this is that the keyboard is actually still working even though you have it folded behind. I just hit the enter key. See if I can get it to see my face. All right. So that is a disadvantage. When you do have it in this mode and you just want to type or like use the screen, type on the screen, or write on the screen with the pencil, you'll find this is not a really good option, because as you start to tap around, you see how much it's bouncing. You can see it's bouncing as I'm scrolling. So if you wanted to actually write, you're just going to push it down like that. That's not the best mode for writing. You either want to write flat like this, or you want to use another one of their postures, which you may know from the Windows 2-in-1 world. You can also turn it this way. I don't think they really mean for it to be turned this way. It's not one of the positions that they talk about. You don't have a good angle here. It's very much straight upright. But if you wanted to use it in portrait mode, you could have it in portrait mode. But the other angle they advertise is tent mode, where you've got the keyboard inside, so you don't have it tapping on the back. You could write here and you don't have any wobble. You can push on the screen as hard as you want and it's not wobbling, which is better. But keep in mind, you're taking up that much more space on your desk, right? So where my hand is the desk space that you need for this one. It may be similar to having it on a stand, but it's just something to keep in mind. This is probably the most stable method for viewing if you are not using the keyboard. They have a position that they call corner mode, where you could hang it off of a table. Again, when you're using the keyboard, it does not turn off. So you have to be conscious of that when you're using it. So if you have it, I don't even know if the camera can pick this up, but if you have it in what they call corner mode, so you've got it open like this, but you've got it hanging off of something. Like if I wanted to hang it off my monitor back here, which I can't because there's just too much crap in the way, but if I wanted to hang it off something, now it's hanging off something. Now again, the keyboard is active, so unless you turn the keyboard off, which is an option, and it's probably really the only option if you want to use it in this posture, the corner mode, or if you want to use it with the keyboard out and you're worried about touching it, it's best to turn it off. I don't know what the use case is for this. Somebody tell me. They show it in pictures hanging off of the high shelf. You can't really hang it off your refrigerator because the door would be in the way. I suppose if you had a bookshelf and you wanted to hang it off a bookshelf, you could. But I don't know when you would make use of that mode. But it's advertised. And then that's pretty much it. The final posture that they advertise, so you've got laptop, you've got stand, you've got share, you've got corner, you've got tent, and you have protect, which is the close mode, which you would use for carrying around. This is one of the 7 positions that they advertise. The hinge is pretty stiff. It takes effort to spin it around, but as I noted, it's not a very big piece of metal that this thing is spinning on. So, and this is not an expensive keyboard case. It's less than $100. I think it's retailing around $70 on Amazon. It's not an expensive case. So it's relatively well made for what it is, but it's mainly plastic, and I don't know if you can hear this, but it's a little creaky. I can click can you hear that? I can click the trackpad without touching the trackpad. So it's creaky and bendy. And I don't know if you can see that it's also kind of a fingerprint magnet. Some of the keys that I use most often are the filthiest, which not unusual for keyboards. I'm going to be, try to be reasonably fair. Keyboards and trackpads do get dirty. But the stiffness of the hinge does not stop it from being wobbly. So it is hard to spin, which you want, but it is easy to wobble because of the weight. The iPad is very heavy, and while the keyboard is also relatively heavy, the balance, it just means you're going to have a relatively shaky package anytime you're touching the top piece. It's not so top heavy that it's going to tip over, but it is fairly creaky and wobbly. What is it like to type on? Because it's a keyboard, yes. It is clicky and reasonably nice to type on. The keys do not feel as good as the Magic Keyboard or the Logitech Combo Touch, but they do work well. I don't have any problems with duplicate key presses. I don't have any problems with missed key presses. The keys are slippery, but I don't find myself slipping off of them. The spacing is reasonable and pretty similar to the other keyboards, leading keyboards for the iPad Pro. You have the buttons that you would expect for functionality. There we go. We've got the brightness controls. We got the touch keyboard control, which I'm not in a, there we go, touch keyboard control, microphone, the backlight, you can turn it on or change the color. This is to change the color. We've got the media controls for reverse and forward and play, pause. We've got the speaker volume and then the connection key. It is a Bluetooth keyboard, but it does connect reasonably quickly when you open it. And if you have Face ID enabled, when it sees your face, you can just hit enter as you normally would. It is slower than the Magic Keyboard because it's Bluetooth, but it's pretty fast. I don't have any major complaints about connection. My major complaints with this are the creakiness. You can hear it creaking. The fact that you can get the trackpad to do things that it shouldn't be doing when you try to, and you think, okay, well, how often are you going to be doing that? But if you ever lift it up just to move it around, you could accidentally click the trackpad just lifting it up. So it could be a problem, but I'm not going to say it's a daily constant problem. For the price, I think this is actually a pretty good option if you're the kind of person that wants to put your iPad Pro in a case and you don't want to take it off and you don't mind the weight because this is heavy. The iPad itself is heavy, and you add a case with a battery in it and it's going to be heavier. But if you're okay with that and you want the ability to type when you want to type, and you want the ability to use it as a tablet when you want to use it as a tablet, this is a decent, inexpensive option. It is half the price of the Logitech Combo Touch. It is, a third, 25% of the price of the Magic Keyboard, depending on, sales and whatnot. And it does all the things you expect it to do. Now, I do want to point out, to me, the two biggest drawbacks if you're thinking about buying this, besides the weight, because all of the keyboard cases that are good for the iPad are heavy. The Magic Keyboard is heavy. The Logitech Combo Touch is heavy. This one is heavy. They're all heavy, so you're accepting that you're going to have additional weight. So the pros and cons of a device like this. I've already talked about the wobbliness. I've already talked about how, some positions are more interesting than others. I talked about how it's creaky and how you can get the trackpad to generate clicks without even really necessarily trying. And I've talked about how it collects dirt and grime, which again, it's a keyboard, not unusual. I think the two big main issues I have with this keyboard case, I think it's good for someone who wants to keep their iPad in a case 100% of the time. You want to be able to use it as a tablet and a keyboard, and you don't want to pay more money for the Logitech Combo Touch, which has a similar concept in that you can remove the keyboard and just use the the iPad case alone without the keyboard. Save a little bit of weight that way. But if you don't want to pay for that, this is a reasonable option. The two things that I would caution about. One is that my experience with the trackpad has been suboptimal, I will say. It works fine. The trackpad works fine. You can click on things and do whatever you need to do. It works fine. But when you're typing, its palm rejection is nowhere near to the level of what you get with the Magic Keyboard. There are times when I'll be typing and the next thing I know, I've accidentally triggered the trackpad and now I'm typing somewhere completely different on the screen that I didn't intend to type, or I've overwritten what I've thought I was typing. That is annoying. Now, it doesn't happen to me all of the time, but it happens enough of the time that I think it's worth mentioning. Now, if you're very diligent about staying off the trackpad, and the trackpad, as you can see, it's pretty big, or you turn the trackpad off, if you know you're going to be typing for a long time, you could do that. I'm not doing that. That's annoying to me. I don't want to have to turn off a trackpad. I would rather just have a keyboard with a trackpad that doesn't jump around. That's one big drawback for me. I have been able to use this nevertheless. I've just had to be very diligent about keeping my little grubby hands off the trackpad when I'm typing. So, it's all about positioning and making sure that my hands are staying off the trackpad, that I'm allowing enough space so that I'm not touching it. And you can do it. Keep your wrists up. That's doable. It's the right posture anyway. We get lazy and our hands drop. The second problem for me is the battery life. Now, it's advertised at having up to 90 days without the backlight. I have been using this keyboard case very lightly, like maybe an hour or two a day over the course of the last week. And when I pulled it out to use it this morning, the battery light was flashing at me. Now, I keep the backlight on all the time whenever I'm using it. So whenever I'm using it, the backlight is on. Now, the keyboard will go to sleep. The backlight will turn off. It will disconnect. When you close it, it will disconnect and eventually shut itself off. So it's not on, 24/7. But nevertheless, I was able to drain the battery with what I consider very light use, because I do not use the iPad all day. I use it for maybe an hour or two in the morning to check my email, look through feeds, and I put it away, and I don't use it again until the next day. And it has been just about a week of use that way for me. Now, to me, that's annoying. For you, that may be fine. I tend to have keyboard and mice that I can charge on a monthly schedule. Like on the first of the month, I know it's probably time for me to charge whatever wireless keyboards and Bluetooth mice I have. And have something that puts me off schedule just means one more thing I have to think about. Now, I could get into a routine that says, every week, every Monday or every Sunday or whatever, plug it in. No, it's going to need to be charged. So it's really more of what you're willing to accept in terms of battery life. I'm not going to say the battery life is terrible. And if I turned the backlight off more often, I'm sure it would last me longer. It's just one of those things where I just set it and forget it. So maybe for you, you never use your iPad in the dark and you don't even need the backlight. Then this will probably last you well over a month if it's advertising 90 days, and that should be fine. It shouldn't be an issue. So it's more of how you use it and what your expectations are. For me, those are two problems that I probably won't overcome, and I'm going to put this thing back in my Magic Keyboard as soon as I'm done with this review. But if I didn't have the Magic Keyboard, or I didn't want to pay for the Magic Keyboard, or if I didn't have the Logitech Combo Touch or didn't want to pay for that, could I put up with those problems? I would probably be more motivated to put up with those problems. I could probably turn off the backlight, only turn it on when I'm in the dark. I just like the way the backlight looks, but if I turned it off a little bit more and remained diligent about how I type, then for as infrequently as I need to type on my iPad, this would probably be fine. Now, if you're a person who is a writer, full-time writer, and you use your iPad Pro, I wouldn't recommend this. I think spend more money for the Logitech Combo Touch, or do what I did. Wait till one of them goes on sale on Woot. I bought my Magic Keyboard on Woot for, I think, less than half price. Wait for something like that, or get a Bluetooth keyboard that you know you trust. And just put your keyboard and your iPad in a regular case, or put it on a stand if you know you're really going to rely on the keyboard and or trackpad mice working as you expect. But if you don't want something small, and small in the sense that it's fewer pieces in the Combo Touch, and I guess it's about the same size as using the Magic Keyboard. But if you're looking for something that's small in the sense where it's all in one, and it's inexpensive, I think this is a reasonable option and something to consider. Just be really aware of the wobbliness, the creakiness, the battery life, and the trackpad. Maybe get it from Amazon, try it out. You got the return policy, and if you don't like it, you know what to do. Thanks for watching.